Well, hello, Facebook world, and welcome to a very, very important health tip today. I have joined with me the legendary Dr. Karen Becker.
Good morning.
Now, today we are here to talk about a very important topic, and that has to do with vaccine reactions. Look, it's that time of year. You probably got that email, that postcard, whatever that says, hey, Miss Jones, it's time to come on into your vet clinic. It's time to get your annual boosters and your annual vaccines. And what's happening is Miss Jones and a lot of pet parents around the world are not going in. They're ignoring those recommendations because of the headlines that you're seeing all over the world that's talking about vaccine reactions. Some pets losing their lives. Today, we want to be able to address that topic for you, a test you can do, and what you can do to ease your mind so you don't have to hide from your veterinarian. But there's a giant caveat here today. Look, whenever you talk about vaccinations, vaccine reactions, whatever the case may be, it's a very polarizing topic. Just look in the comment section as we speak, it's going to light up. When it comes to the animal space, you have two types of philosophies here. You have people that are pro-vaccine and you have people that are anti-vaxxers. And man, let me tell you, they don't always get along. We don't want people to mudsling here today. We are not about any of these philosophies, who's right, who's wrong, whatever it may be. We want to give you, the pet parent, better tools to be a wise vaxxer. Yeah. Now, Dr. Karen Becker, that term over-vaccinating, what on earth does that mean?
Over-vaccination is something that happens in veterinary medicine because like kids, human kids, when puppies and kittens are vaccinated, we give them puppy shots, kitten shots, but then in veterinary medicine, we go on to continue vaccinating dogs and cats as adults, and not just once or twice as adults, typically every year, maybe every 3 years, from birth to death. What that means is animals get a whole lot more vaccines over their lifetime, a situation that we call over-vaccinating. Now, originally, when vaccine manufacturers had to establish that their products worked, that they were efficacious, they proved that these vaccines worked for a year. But what they didn't continue researching was how long those vaccines actually last in the system. And just like you and I don't go in every year for a measles, mumps, rubella booster, those are the kid shots. We don't go in every year to get those. Dogs and cats have protection for life in many situations to their core vaccines for a lot longer than a year.
Yeah, and just like Dr. Karen Becker alluded to, vaccine reactions are scary, especially when you know you got to keep going in potentially every single year, upping your chances of getting a reaction. Now, what are vaccine reactions like? Well, you'll see if you do a little bit of research, this could be allergic reactions, autoimmune reactions, seizures, whatever the case may be. In fact, in the journal by the AVMA, there was a study posted in 2005 that showed 1 in 250 dogs experienced a vaccine reaction. Now, with 900 million dogs on the planet, potentially speaking, that could be 3.6 million pets that don't have to go through an unnecessary vaccine reaction. Now, Dr. Becker, when I went to my veterinarian with my dog and cat, I kind of thought it was the same thing like most pet parents do. You bring your pet in, you get your vaccines, just like a gas tank, it's empty, and it fills all the way up to full. Yeah. And as the year goes by, that gas tank gets lower, so you got to go back in and fill it back up. But that's not actually how to look at it.
This is a very common way that people erroneously assume your pet's immune system work. I think a lot of times people think, okay, and I think veterinarians sometimes perpetuate that. We send emails that say, hey, your pet could be overdue or it's time for boosters. So sometimes we erroneously assume that like a battery, our pet's immune systems or immunity will drop over time to these core vaccines. That's not actually how our immune systems work. A much more accurate analogy would be thinking about your dog and cat's immune system like not just a cell phone, but a cell phone after core puppy and kitten vaccines that has been plugged in and now carrying 100% charge their whole life. What that means is if your dog or cat has been charged, which means they have immunity, giving more immunity is like boosting a battery that's at 100%. So this is a wireless charger. Imagine your pet's immune system at 100%, and then you go in every year and you're trying to hypercharge an already adequately charged immune system. You can see pretty quickly year after year where this can lead to hot water in terms of over-vaccination, creating a lot of potential terrible reactions.
Yeah, and so you may be saying to yourself as a pet parent, all right, so I go in, I get my vaccination, my phone is full, why would I ever have to go back in again? The term genetically predisposed or pets that are susceptible to maybe not getting immunity is the case. Imagine the phone. You buy a phone. There's a factory default in your phone. You get, those people that get those batteries, 10 minutes, the battery is empty. It's not working anymore. You don't know if your pet actually got any immunity from that vaccine unless you test. Yeah. Let me introduce you to the titer test, the tool that can immensely help you or your pet so you don't have to worry about that vaccine reaction. Now, before we get into titer testing, I want to say this. Dr. Karen Becker and I went to the world's best who we sat down and interviewed with. Check it out, the 2017 AHA Canine Vaccine Guidelines, the American Animal Hospital Association. Look at the lead authors down here on the bottom. Dr. Richard Ford, Dr. Lori Larson, Dr. Ronald Schultz. We sat down with these experts to talk about titer testing, and look, now in the AHA vaccine guidelines, titer testing is now in there.
Yeah.
Dr. Karen Becker, tell us a little bit about titer testing.
So titer testing is a blood draw that checks for how many antibodies, checks for previous vaccine immunity, that does a fantastic job at demonstrating clearly that your pet doesn't need additional boosters. And it's really important. Rodney actually went to the vet school at Madison and interviewed Dr. Schultz and Dr. Lori Larson. And this is what this Facebook Live is about. For those of you that have never heard of this term titer testing, it's really important. For you to be a wise vaxxer, you have to include this really important step in making sure that your pet is protected against disease, but not at high risk for over-vaccination. Rodney put together a fantastic little short video from his expert interview with theforeverdog.com. For those of you that have never heard of titer testing, a great short informational video that you can find, especially if your veterinarian doesn't know about titer testing as well. Now, there's a bunch of reasons why we do titer testing.
Yeah, and look, now this term titer testing, by the way, in other parts of the world, according to the experts like in Europe and in the UK, teeter testing, whatever way you want to call it, according to these world authorities, when it comes to titer testing, this is pertaining to your core set of vaccines. Dr. Becker, can you explain core set?
Sure. So core set for vaccines for dogs is parvo, distemper, and adenovirus. Core vaccines for kitties are panleukopenia, calicium, and herpes. Now, rabies is a core vaccine for both dogs and cats, but rabies is required by law. All of the other vaccines are elective, but when we say elective, these are infectious diseases that can kill your pet. So do we want to make sure that they're protected against disease? Yes. Do we want to make sure that we're not giving them vaccines and assuming they're protected when they're not? That's probably the biggest issue. What Rodney was talking about is this scenario where there are non-responders. Non-responders mean that your pet could be genetically incapable of producing antibodies, which means you're giving vaccine and you think that your dog or cat is protected and they're not. There's another scenario that's really important for titer testing as well. All of you that have healthy animals that are carrying probable lifelong protective immunity, a titer test is a great way to demonstrate that. We know in our hearts that our animals are protected. The last group that's really important to titer test or to antibody test would be sick animals. Right on the vaccine insert, it says that your pet has to be healthy to receive vaccine. So animals fighting cancer, animals that have liver, kidney failure, heart disease, autoimmune disease, allergies, those animals aren't healthy. And yet you want to make sure that they're protected against disease. And a titer test is a fantastic way that you're able and your veterinarian is able to confidently know that your animals are protected. Now there's an in-hospital, in-clinic titer test it's actually a screening test called a qualitative test. You get the answers yes, no in about 20 minutes. Your veterinarian can also send a blood sample out to a lab for a serology, a quantitative actual titer that gives you a definitive number.
Now look, there's probably a zillion more questions. How many titers do I need? How many times a year do I do it? What kind of animals can I titer?
What about lepto? What about Lyme? There's so, like literally, we're trying to keep this 5-minute Facebook Live for you guys that have never heard about titers. We want you to know that there's a really great option in between over-vaccinating and doing nothing. Oh. And that's what this Facebook Live is about.
Yeah, so of course you can go check out the free video if you want more information. But if you have questions, detailed questions, as always, after all of these Facebook Lives, we have a support group you can go to. This Sunday, we have 3 vets joining us. A roundtable discussion with Dr. Lori Koger, Dr. Odette Suter, Dr. Susan Albright, and Dr. Karen Becker to help answer your questions. Now, to those boarding facilities, to the kennel facilities, to the training facilities, whatever the case may be, I know there's an issue out there. These immunologists want you to know. proof of immunity is much more important than proof of vaccination. You have no idea if the vaccines even worked.
Yeah. For you to know in your heart that your animal is protected against diseases, be a wise vaxxer and titer.
As always, stay safe, pet parents. We'll see you again.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.